Welcome into the week 12. I can't believe we're already almost 12 weeks in the books of the NFL season. Week 12 recap. We're going to go over the 11 Sunday games. A little bit lighter of a schedule because we had 4 games happen, Thanksgiving and Black Friday. Dad, another good week of football, right?
Yeah. Other than my Lions laying an egg on Thursday, everything else looked pretty good. Good college games Saturday, and followed up with some pretty good games on Sunday. So,
yeah, it's been really good the last few weeks. Go ahead.
Yeah. You said, I was kind of shocked to hear you have a fantasy team that's already in playoffs. You're doing playoffs.
Yeah, it's kind of crap. Well, it's work for PFF, and they do a big tournament style fantasy league. So, you have over 350 teams, and I think they have, I don't know what it breaks down to, but it's like you have maybe 20 different leagues, and then you have divisions, like 3 or 4 different divisions, and within those divisions you have like 4 or 5, maybe 6 leagues or something. So you kind of have to start the playoffs now. It kind of sucks because obviously bye weeks are still happening. So, but it is what it is, and it's kind of fun because you can have the same players as someone else, like I did this last week. So, yeah, we'll see. I need. I think there was a stat correction, so now I need less than 17 points from DJ Moore tonight. PPR, he's projected for 17.79, so it's going to be a close one. Yeah, it's going to be a close one.
Yeah.
I think it's 16.9 is what the guy needs to beat me. So if the Lions kicker, he got me -1, if he would have just done like 5 points, I probably would have had it sealed up. So it just shows you how close things come.
I'm trying to remember. I don't even remember him missing a kick in the game. I
missed an extra point, and I think they were going for 2 a lot. So,
okay.
Of that, chasing that point. So, but we're gonna jump right into it with our recap. Just again, 2 weeks. It feels like across all my leagues, it feels like there's a couple top-heavy teams, and then there's teams 3 through like 8 or 9 are all just right there. Usually at this point we have, if you play in a 12-team league, 4 or 5 teams are already out of the playoffs. There's only like 1 or 2 playoff spots still up for grabs. In a lot of my leagues, it's like there's still 8 teams that could be in the playoffs, could be out of the playoffs, 8 or 9 or 10 teams actually, and that could be in or out of the playoffs. So I think these last 2 weeks are going to be very important for people. So we're just going to jump right into it. We have a big bye week coming up, 6 teams on bye. Steelers and Bengals is our first game that we're getting into here. It was the first game since the COVID 2020 season that the Steelers went over 400 yards of offense. I think they said every team had at least done it 3 times since during the Steelers drought of not getting 400 yards. And it just so happened to come after they fired their offensive coordinator. Dad, coincidence? Or do you think this is kind of hopefully the new Steelers offense?
I was I watched a little bit of that, and Kenny Pickett was actually throwing downfield a little bit.
Yep.
Not this dink and dunk crap that they were doing. I wasn't getting them anywhere. And you can look at Kenny Pickett's average per completion of 8.4 yards. So, it's not this 6 or and he had 278 yards of passing yards. Unfortunately, that didn't compute a lot into the scoreboard, but it just appeared Freiermuth had a big game, and we'll go through it, but I don't think it's a coincidence. I think play calling obviously helped.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and you mentioned it. Yards per attempt, 8.4. The previous 4 weeks, the highest was 5.5. So he did have it was tied for the second highest this year. He had a 9.2 week, but other than that, he's been well below. He's been like 7 or below basically every week. So good to see that. And they did have. We'll get to it with Deontay Johnson. they had a weird. It's again like I don't know what a catch is in the end zone still at this point, and it feels like it's been how many years since the Calvin Johnson thing that kind of started this whole thing, 10 years or at least, where it's
15,
like it's a catch.
12 to
Deontay's
15.
had one of those, and what I don't understand is if that were not in the end zone, that would have been a catch fumble. But in the end zone, it's an incomplete pass. That doesn't make sense to me because if you have a catch, as soon as you cross the goal line, it's a touchdown. So it's like, how is this in any other circumstance a catch fumble?
Yeah.
But in the end zone, it's an incomplete pass. Doesn't make sense to me.
I agree with you on that. Crossing the goal line with the ball means a touchdown. But now you got to fall to the ground and roll around 6 times or something like that, and everybody grabbing at you.
Yeah, so that should have been a touchdown, in my opinion. That would have made Kenny Pickett's day look a lot. 275 and 1 touchdown. You're very happy with if you have to start him in any super flex leagues. Najee Harris has been really good lately. I went back and looked at it since their bye week, which was in week 6, I believe. Najee Harris has been the RB 11. Really good. He's had 4 of the 6 weeks. He's been over 14 points in half PPR. So, Dad, are we seeing this is hopefully what we're going to get from Najee the rest? They're not going to go away from him. That's how, anyone expecting Jaylen Warren to take over, it's not going to happen. It's going to be Najee 55, 60% of the time and Jaylen Warren the rest of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. But the bad thing is Najee was non-existent in the passing game. So, his rushing numbers were, spot on, 15 for 99. He had a 22-yard long run, which is we haven't heard stuff like that out of Najee Harris in a while. So it's and you're right, they're not going to go away from him. So just keep playing them and hope you get good numbers out of them. That's what I would suggest.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Like, I think they're both Warren and Najee, like low end running back 2s. Warren can give you double-digit points in half PPR without a touchdown. Najee's probably going to need a touchdown, but again, like how many running backs can you rely on getting 15 plus touches a game? Not many. So Najee's one of those guys. And yeah, he's going to be kind of like a Gus Edwards where he needs a touchdown, but 3 of the last 4 weeks he's had a touchdown. So you'll kind of take that as at this point with Najee Harris. And in terms of I mentioned the snap counts already. The receivers, Pickens and Deontay, both 3-4 catches, 50 yards, not great. It was really all Pat Freiermuth. If he has to be a must-add if he's on waivers, right, Dad? And are you just starting him, assuming that the offense is going to kind of roll through him?
Yeah, he was one of those tight ends. We've talked a lot about it in previous videos, previous podcasts. There's a lot of middle-of-the-road tight ends, and he was in that category. He just got hurt a couple times this year. He got hurt early. I think he tried to come back after 3 or 4 weeks, and he kind of re-aggravated, got hurt again. So now we're kind of seeing the real Pat Freiermuth, and he had a huge game yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, he definitely did. So it's definitely pick him up, and if you've been streaming tight ends, and throw him in there because we've seen him be good in the past, and that's good to see. And again, like if Deontay catches that touchdown, you have a good week from Deontay. I still think you're starting Deontay. Hold off on Pickens, I'd say, and we'll kind of go from there. So good to see from the Steelers actual some life. The Bengals side of things, Browning was okay, 225 and a touchdown, had an interception. The one thing I don't understand is they only gave Mixon 8 carries. That didn't really make sense to me. I don't think they had too many plays. I see Browning threw 26 passes and they ran the ball 11 times. So 37 non-penalty plays is what they had.
That's
That's very low.
Very huge.
So, but still, 8 carries for Mixon. Does that make any sense for you? Like,
No.
It's not like they were getting blown out.
No, not at all. They apparently weren't trying to establish the run or any of that. I didn't watch the game I didn't watch a lot of the game, but you go back and look at this the box score, and you think like something doesn't look good here.
No, not at all. And 43 snaps on offense, but that's from PFF, and that includes like false starts and stuff. So
that's terrible.
That's really, really bad. I mean, average is like 60 to 70. What's interesting is if you were thinking, they kind of changed their philosophy a little bit. They were running basically 12 personnel, so 2 tight ends out there. They did that almost 25% of the time, which they were right around 10%. And that kind of meant that Tyler Boyd was not really in that much. Tyler Boyd only plays on 3 wide receiver sets. So that's an important note, because I think a lot of people were like, okay, I'll throw Boyd in there with Higgins out as like, at least give me something, especially during bye weeks. But I don't know if you can do that now. If he's only going to be out there on 3 wide receiver sets, avoid Tyler Boyd if you can. It was Andre Yoshivas and Trenton Irwin were kind of out. Trenton Irwin was the one that was out there, in 2 wide receiver sets. So Jamar Chase, I would still start him every week, but this is kind of what you're going to get, right? 4 for 80. It's like the Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams with their backup quarterbacks. Like, you're going to get 4 for 80 and you hope for a touchdown. What's crazy is 2 of those catches weren't even thrown to him. They were tip passes that he just happened to catch. So concerning, though. Are you still just starting Jamar Chase status every week?
Sure, absolutely. I don't think Jake Browning I don't think he had a bad game. You've identified the snap count was really low in the 40s. If you added 10, 12 more snaps, Browning's numbers probably would have been a little better, and there would have been some more passes thrown to Chase and things like that. Higgins is still out. Just kind of a strange game,
Yeah. And somehow Steelers, they are 7-4. So they're right there in the mix for sure. I mean, I would assume they're in one of the wild card spots. And yeah, it's pretty crazy to see that they are that far up. I'm just double checking. They are in the 5th spot, so they're the first wild card team. So, but anyways, we'll move on from that game. We'll get into the Jags at the Texans. A good game, really good game. These 2 teams battling it out. This was kind of a big game for the division. Now Jags get a solid two game lead on them, which is with 6 to play is pretty big. We've seen another really good game from Trevor Lawrence. Had 360, a touchdown. He ran a touchdown in. This is the Trevor Lawrence we expected to get? Is this who we're going to get rest of the year, Dad? He's had 32 points and 25 points and 4-point per passing touchdown each of the last 2 weeks. Is this what we're getting from Lawrence?
Yeah, and I don't know if it's coincidence or not. There's at least 2 weeks in a row that Calvin Ridley's kind of been relevant. Mm-hmm. So maybe there's a connection there. Maybe it took him a half a year to figure out, what the hell's going on, between Lawrence and Ridley. And it kind of does, sometimes. I know those guys are experienced and things like that. But so, yeah, I'd say don't be benching Trevor Lawrence or anything like that. Now he's not going to be throwing for 360 every week. So
yeah, Definitely. The only thing I would say is we did see this last year, middle of the year, 5-game stretch or so, where he was really good, and then he kind of turned back into not so great the last 3-4 weeks of the season. So just kind of keep that in mind. That he does have a pretty tough schedule coming up in terms of, well, he has the Bengals next week, which is fine, but then he has the Browns and Ravens. I think the Ravens would be the first week of the playoffs, so that's kind of a tough matchup. So I would still roster another quarterback to maybe pivot to, because the Ravens have been shutting down all quarterbacks. Travis Etienne has not been great since his bye week. Maybe a good candidate that maybe you should have potentially sold high on. I think he was the RB2 heading into the bye week. And since their bye week, it's only been 3 games, but since their bye week, and if you looked at the schedule, you knew he had a tough schedule. He's been RB37. So just always keep that in mind. You're always starting ETN. You're not going to get away from him, but you could kind of see it being a thing where they were playing the Saints and the Steelers and the 49ers and the Titans after their bye, and all those teams are pretty good against the run. So that's probably part of it. And another thing to monitor is his health. So he played 12 of the 14 snaps in the first quarter, which is what he's always been doing. And then he had a chest injury. He played 7 of the 19 snaps in the second quarter. But then he played 15 and 19 in the third quarter. But then he played 6 of 16 in the fourth quarter. And it was a close game. They needed him. So monitor that health. Dad, do you think Dearness Johnson or Tank Bigsby is the running back to grab at this point? 2 weeks ago, it would have been Tank, but now it might be Dearness Johnson.
Yeah, I don't know. Good old Tank Bigsby hasn't done much all year, so I'm not sure if he's getting it. The other guy, Johnson, Dearness Johnson, he's a little more, isn't he an ex-Cleveland guy?
Yep.
Yeah, so he's got a little more experience. So, if you're looking for somebody, maybe check that out and see how much usage he's getting and stuff like that, and then maybe roll with it.
Yeah, no, I think he was the guy to grab. It was Dearness Johnson kind of dominated the backfield over Tank Bigsby. So I always kind of recommend it if you're making the playoffs at this point. You don't need to waste a roster spot on like a potential wide receiver that could break out. Handcuff your running backs, protect yourself. So if you do lose someone in the playoffs, you can throw in Dearness Johnson. I definitely think Dearness Johnson needs to be rostered. And yeah, you said Ridley was good, 5 for 89 and a touchdown. He had nothing at halftime, so I was a little worried. Christian Kirk also still pretty good, 4 for 89. So I think it might be, weirdly enough, Zay Jones kind of allows Ridley to run different routes. Like Zay Jones kind of runs the deep routes, and Ridley can be used a little bit more creatively. So as long as he's in there, weird to say, but as long as Zay Jones is in there, I'd really like Ridley kind of rest of season. So Texan side, CJ Stroud is awesome. 3 total touchdowns, 300 yards. Nothing else to really say about him. Singletary and Dameon Pierce, it's kind of tough. We saw Singletary be really good. Now, I will say this. Singletary dominated the backfield, 49 snaps to Pierce's 11. But you look at the box score and you see 6 carries for Singletary, 5 for Pierce. Singletary did have 6 for 54. Dad, do you think Singletary is still going to be flex-worthy moving forward, at least one more week? Or do you want to just move away from it? Dameon Pierce will maybe get more snaps. What do you think?
It seems like overall Houston went away from the run game. You look at the numbers and but the snap count that kind of tells the story right there. Singletary was very relevant in the passing game. 6 catches, 54 yards. So, and based upon that and the snap count, I'd still roll with Singletary.
Yeah. Yeah, especially next week when you have 6 teams on bye, I'd probably go one more week with him. But again, this could be a case of Pierce coming off the injury. They gotta ease him in, and they could give him more snaps as next week. So, but yeah, if Singletary's at least going to get 4 or 5 catches, he's going to be flex worthy. And then the receivers, Nico Collins, Tank Dell. Nico had the bigger game, but Tank Dell did have like a 50-yard catch, which I think was kind of a BS called back. But
yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, so he could have had a bigger game. But anyways, you're still starting both those guys, and that's kind of it for the Dalton Schultz. He was kind of limited in his snaps. I don't know why he wasn't on the injury report. So just kind of, I guess, pay attention to that. He didn't do anything, 2 targets, 1 catch. So monitor that. Maybe he got injured in the game or something. But yeah, we'll kind of move on there to the Bucs and the Colts. Dad, speaking of playoff teams, the Colts are the 7th seed in the playoffs, amazingly, at 6-5. Do they make the playoffs? Yes or no?
I'd say why not? I think we seen it last year. I think the 7 seeds. I can't remember who they were. I just kind of remember making a mental note that at least one of AFC or NFC's 7 seed was they were kind of weak or something like that. So, good on the Colts. They lost their quarterback. They had a lot of BS going on about the running back situation, Jonathan Taylor and stuff like that. But they look like a decent team. Okay. It means you can't be making mistakes and, penalties and fumbles and turnovers and things like that. So if they play that way, they can run the ball. Minshew is good enough,
Yeah.
They got a decent receiver. They keep on feeding him, Michael Pittman Jr., and he keeps on making it happen. So I can't see why. I don't know what the Colts' rest of the schedule is or anything like that. I'm just talking about from what I've seen.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. So the 2 wildcard teams last year were both 9-8, Seahawks and Dolphins. There were some bad. I think the NFC South division winner was pretty bad, though. But yeah, it looks like we're going to be getting someone close to around 9-8. The Bucs side, Baker, I still think he didn't have his best game, but he still was good. I think he almost had 15 points and 4 point per passing touchdown for. And if you're starting Baker and you get that, you're okay with it. He had a couple. Mike Evans tackled at the 1 yard line again, and then he left that drive, that goal line red zone drive with an injury. Came back. He says he's going to get an MRI on his ankle, so do monitor that. But I still think he's matchup dependent, stream worthy quarterback depending on who they're playing. Rashad White had 15 for 100, so he's still good. He didn't do much in the receiving game, which means he didn't have the greatest game, because he didn't get a touchdown, many catches, but you're still starting him. Evans, man, is still awesome. The dude's on pace for like 1,400 yards and 14 touchdowns. He had 6 for 70 and 2 touchdowns, and he could have had a third one if he didn't get tackled at the 1. Dad, are you benching Chris Godwin at this point? 3 for 45. I think he's had 4 straight weeks of less than double digit. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 4 straight weeks of 7.5 or less points in half PPR. Are you benching him at this point?
Yeah, I don't know. I know the numbers haven't been very good. You look at the targets; he had 7 targets. So, are you thinking this morning if he has 5 catches, and 75 yards or something like that? So, I don't know. If you bench him, of course, you better have something to replace him with. And
what if you have like a Josh Downs? He had 5 for, I think, 50 in this game, and he's actually been pretty good with Minshew. He's had 3 double-digit games.
He had 13 targets too. So
yeah,
maybe who's the other guy? Dotson. I'm thinking,
for Washington.
Yeah, I'm just trying to compare, players and stuff like that. And if you got something,
Rice.
Yeah, if you have something like those guys, then plug them in. And,
yeah.
Just hold on to Godwin, for playoff time or something like that, injury time or whatever else.
Yeah, he does have the Bucs in general, they get the Panthers, who actually are really good in terms of fantasy against receivers and quarterbacks because everyone runs on them. Falcons, Packers next 3 weeks. So those are not terrible teams. So I agree. I'd probably bench them, but definitely not dropping them. Colts side of things, Minshew is Minshew. I don't really need to talk too much. Jonathan Taylor had 2 touchdowns and 90 yards. What's interesting there, though, is that they kind of went back to rotating drives, him and Zach Moss. I think Jonathan Taylor was just over 50% snap percentage. So, interesting note there. The important thing is he had more carries, and when they were in the red zone, they used Jonathan Taylor. So, he's obviously still a must start. But, yeah, just keep an eye on Zach Moss. He's efficient, 8 for 55. If he's going to get 50% of the snaps, maybe if you're desperate, you could throw him in there. You mentioned it, Michael Pittman. Dad, is he going to get paid? Why? He's a free agent this year. He's on pace for, I believe, 1,200 yards and like 7 touchdowns and well over 100 catches. Is he going to get wide receiver 1 money?
Geez, I hope not. Then the NFL's gone a little crazy. The guys, he should be a notch below that. So, or what are we talking? You talking $20 million a year? That's what the good wide receivers get. Some of the better ones get more than that. Michael Pittman gets $20 million a year, then I salute you, Colts, I guess, but
I think someone's gonna pay him. Like the guy's gonna have the numbers. He's gonna have 115 catches and 1,200 yards.
It's already his 4th year, USC.
Yep, and he's only like improved every year, from his rookie to his second to third year. Like I think he improved. It was just kind of a disaster in the quarterbacks, and then this year he's going to have his best year. I think someone's going to pay him. You have Anthony Richardson, a young quarterback. Like, are you really going to get rid of your best weapon?
You shouldn't. The NFL are pretty slick on contracts and stuff like that. So they kind of make, the numbers that we hear don't always tell the truth on what the real contract is. And somebody like him, somebody like Pittman, who's, played 4 years, done progressively well, they'll give him a contract and maybe it'll look big, but after 2 to 3 years, there'll be some outs on it, so it's
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you always have to look at the guaranteed. What if he gets like a Christian Kirk, basically $18 million a year?
Yeah, I would say that's perfect, right on that level. And we know Christian Kirk got overpaid. Well, we think he did. So
yeah, at the time. I just think about a team like the Chiefs. Like, are you telling me like they wouldn't shell out a bunch of money to get someone like Michael Pittman on their team? So I don't know. We'll see. It'll be interesting, but he's a must start. Josh Downs, we talked about. Like, I still think definitely roster and during heavy bye weeks like next week. I think the Colts maybe. No, I don't think they're on a bye. But he's can still put up 13 targets, only 5 catches, which is weird. But the 13 targets you can't ignore. So it's basically Pittman and Downs are like the only 2 getting work here in the passing game, and maybe one of the running backs. But yeah, keep an eye on the splits there with JT and Moss. We'll move on to the Saints at the Falcons. Falcons are leading their division. We want to see Arthur Smith go, but if they win the division, are you really going to get rid of him? I don't think so. We'll start with the Saints are just a hard team. I always pick them in our pool a lot of times, and they always lose. I don't really understand. Like, I don't know, man. Like Carr, just at times it's just like, what are you doing?
Carr's got this. It's like he's got this rain cloud following him, and sometimes it's raining on him, and he looks stupid, or other times it's sunshiny, and he's throwing nice passes and stuff like that. You look at his stats, you'd say, what's the problem? But I don't know. It's like he was with the Raiders. He's reached his ceiling. You've seen the best out of Derek Carr.
Yep, I agree, and I don't know. I just expected more from him in this game, but Kamara over 100 total yards and 4 catches. He's been awesome. They kind of the Saints lost all their receivers, which is something to take note of. Obviously, Michael Thomas on IR, Rashid Shaheed left this game, Chris Olave left this game, Juwan Johnson, the tight end, left this game. So they just had it. They were, I think they were. Someone said they were the healthiest team in the NFL, and then they literally lost 4 of their receivers / tight ends in this game. So that's always tough. I think we underrate that sometimes. You definitely need your receiver. Look at Mahomes, right? He's obviously still awesome, but he doesn't look, like Mahomes of the past without stud receivers. Olave was on his way for an amazing week, 7 for 114, I think, in the first half. And then he got a concussion in the third quarter. So that sucks, especially because it's going to be hard to come back from that concussion. But hope he can. That's a big hit if he's not. Taysom Hill was okay. He was good for a tight end, 2 for 55, and then 26 on the ground. I don't know. We'll have to monitor this team's health. There's really not much to say. You're obviously starting Kamara and Olave if they're in, and Taysom Hill even if you still have him as your tight end. So on the Falcons side, Ritter is definitely not the answer, but they won the game, so it doesn't really matter. Bijan was awesome. They finally decided to give him a majority of the carries and touches. They kind of moved on from the experiment of Tyler Algier, who still had 10 carries, but Bijan had 39 snaps to Algier's 18. Bijan was awesome. He had 120 total yards, 2 touchdowns. So he's back to – that's what you expected when you drafted him, right?
Absolutely. That's what you and I was messaging you yesterday morning, about some lineups, and I maybe had it in my mind to sit Bijan, and you talked me off the ledge and said, yeah, you shouldn't do that, start your studs, and I didn't. So I would have been eating big time crow if I would have done that yesterday. So
yeah, and it's just sometimes we overthink it. It's he's one of those guys I know what he's capable of, so I'm just starting him every week. Drake London, he's always going to be tough to know when to start him, but next week when 6 teams aren't on bye, you're starting him. He had 5 for 91. He's going to be make a decision every week, and he could hit, he could not. I would drop Kyle Pitts at this point, 2 for 22. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know what to say. Is it him? Is it the offense? Is it both? Imagine, I don't know. Anyways, we don't have to talk about it, but it is Cordell Patterson got a little more involved this week too. He had 8 carries as well, so that's cool to see, but he's not going to be start worthy. So it's Bijan and as a must start, and no one else. Drake London, depending on matchup or bye weeks and injuries, but it's Bijan and no one else. So we'll move on to our last game of this video, the Patriots at the Giants, kind of setting offenses back 20 years. Mac Jones, Dad, is he that bad? Is he just broken mentally?
I don't know.
He was good his rookie year.
I've wondered about this myself. The hell's going on? We thought bringing in Bill O'Brien as an experienced coach was going to fix this, and thought thought they were going to lean heavy on Ramondre Stevenson, and we thought the receivers were kind of good enough, Juju and the rest of the crowd, and nothing good has come out of that at all.
Yeah.
Just speculation. The internet's wild with Belichick's going to end up coaching the Chargers, or that type of stuff, and I don't know. We've already had a couple coach firings. I had one this morning. Would they have enough nuts to get rid of Belichick or send him off in the past year? Time to move on to something else. But Mac Jones, no thanks, pal.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
And then the worst part is Bailey Zappi's not much better. So he came in, went 9 for 14, 54 yards and an interception. So it's not much better there. Ramondre Stevenson is a must start. He's been since week 8, 58%, 63, 67, 78%. They've kind of moved away from Ezekiel Elliott, which they should have. I saw where they had a run and he ran to the outside and it was just sad. Like he got like 1 yard. So Ramondre Stevenson, this is what we drafted him to be. And on the year, he's RB23. I think we expected a little bit more than RB23, but since week 6, you look at that kind of like we do with Najee, he's RB13. So he's been playing very well, and I think it's going to continue. 21 carries for 98 yards and a touchdown, 5 catches, only 9 yards, but 5 catches is nice. So he's kind of the only must start on this team. Demario Douglas is still someone you should roster. I think 9 targets, 6 catches, 49 yards. I think he got hurt as well, a head injury. So to start the fourth quarter, so he probably could have had a couple more catches, 8 for 60, and that's solid numbers. So monitor that, though. He is potentially going to miss the game. Giants, Tommy DeVito at least has looked okay. A pretty cool story. Like he grew up in Jersey, Giants fan. Like he's like a guy, the way I look at him is like you expect him to be in the stands watching the game, and he's literally starting games for the Giants.
And he still lives at home.
Yeah. His mom still makes his bed.
So. Mom makes his bed, and they showed mom and dad in the stands yesterday, and I guess there's some kind of, because he's got Italian roots, there's some kind of, I don't know, gesture or hand signal they were doing.
Paisan, yeah.
Hey, they won.
Yeah, they won, which I don't know if they wanted to, because now they're ruining their, they're out of the top 5 now. So
yeah,
but
friggin' New England kicker missed I thought it was
a pretty easy kick.
Like
I think
a 30-some yard field goal to tie it.
Do you think he was told, "Hey, go miss this kick"?
Miss it? Yeah, don't. No. Yeah, don't. Yeah, don't mess up our draft spot so we can get a damn quarterback.
35 yards. It wasn't even close either. 35 yards.
No, it wasn't. It was terrible.
But Bill Belichick, either he's a good actor because he was pissed off. So if he did tell him to miss it, he's a good actor. But yeah, it's still on this team. It's going to be tough with fantasy. I'm still starting Saquon, but man, you're going to get these type of games. 12 for 46, nothing in the air, 1 catch. So Jalen Hyatt, Dad, he had 5 for 109. Rookie receiver. Is he someone you should throw on your roster? Now they're on a bye next week, which is so obviously you're not starting him next week. You're not going to start him in week 14 because you want to see another good week out of him. So you're really not going to start him until the playoffs start if he's anything, but at least throw him on your roster at the very least because, again, rookie receiver could be breaking out.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. On 1 week, the Giants, a terrible offense, I get a little nervous at that stuff. But, of course, in the deeper leagues, dynasty and stuff like that, Jalen Hyatt better be sitting there. We'll be talking about him next summer, just like we talk about Darius Slayton and Sterling Shepard and Wan'Dale Robinson and who's going to be the man on the Giants and the wide receiver, and I don't know.
Yeah,
it's garbage.
Yeah, I would throw him on my roster though because his snap percentage has also gotten to like 60% as well. So
Well,
just in case.
that's an important number. So,
But it is going to be hard. It's going to be pretty hard when you have 6 teams on bye to pick up and hold, unless you have none of your players on a bye to pick them up and hold them. So that's kind of it for this game. And the Giants, Justin Jefferson is not playing, which hopefully you weren't waiting for that. But we will end up there. And as always, like and subscribe. We'll be back with the other 6 games of the Sunday slate. We'll catch you guys then.